So let's start with infrastructure, FortiGate, and the first part is routing. Routing, FortiGate acts as IP router in network address translation mode, NAT mode. It forwards packets between IP networks between IPv4 and IPv6 networks. IP routing is performed for firewall user traffic and local out traffic. It determines next hop on outgoing interface and gateway for packet destination address. Next hop can be destination or another router along the path. Routing table. Routing table contains routers which next hop information for a destination. Entries are checked during route lookup. Best route selection. Best route is the most specific route to the destination. Duplicate routes. Multiple routes to the same destination. Routes attributes are used as tiebreakers for the best route selection. Routing precedes most security actions. You configure your security policies based on routing settings, not the opposite. Not policies based on routing settings, not routing settings based on policies. What is RIB and FIB? RIB is Routing Information Base. It's a standard routing table containing active or best connected static and dynamic routes. FIB, Forwarding Information Base. Routing table from kernel perspective. It is composed mostly by RIB entries plus system-specific entries. It's used for route lookups. Visible on the CLI only. There is a command from CLI get router info kernel. Route lookup. For any reason, FortiGate performs a route lookup twice. First, for the first packet sent by originator, and second, for the first reply packet coming from the responder. Routing information is written to the session table. All other packets for that session will be the same path. No more route lookups done unless the session impacted by routing change. Route information on the session is flushed and new route lookups are performed. Static route is configured manually by an admin. Simple matching of packets to route based on the packet destination IP address. Default route is 0.0.0/0.0.0.0. Static route with named addresses, firewall addresses set to type IP/netmask or FQDN, fully qualified domain name, can be used as destinations for static routes. Dynamic routes. Routes are automatically learned by FortiGate exchanges routes which trusted agent uh, trusted adjacent routers. No need to configure manual routes. It's useful for large networks with multiple subnets. Supported dynamic routing protocols. First, RIP, Routing Information Protocol. There are two types of RIP, and primarily now we use RIP version 2. Open shortest path first. It's OSPF protocol. BGP, Border Gateway Protocol. There is also a protocol ISIS, Intermediate System to Intermediate System. But the last option, ISIS, should be configured on FortiGate CLI only. Enable advanced routing to display the graphical user interface GUI, configuration pages for policy routes and protocols, and multicast. Policy routes. Policy routes provide more granular matching than static routes. Protocol, source address, source ports, destination ports. TOS marking, it's type of service marking. Destination Internet Service. Have precedence over routing table entries. Separate table policy route table. Best practice is to narrow down matching criteria. Policy route actions. Stop policy routing. Skips all policy routes, uses FIB. FIB stands for Forwarding Information Base. Forwarding traffic using the set outgoing interface and gateway. FIB, Forwarding Information Base, have a matching route, otherwise policy route is considered invalid and skipped. Internet Services Routing. Route well-known internet services through specific interfaces, database, direction, number of entries. Database containing IP addresses, protocols, and port numbers used by most common ISPs, Internet Service Providers. Internet Service Database routes take precedence. ISDB, Internet Services Database. IPv6 routing. Enable IPv6 feature to support IPv6 routing configuration using the graphical user interface. IPv6 routing allows static and policy route configuration. It enables graphical user interface configuration of IPv6 version 6 of dynamic routing protocols. Questions. Which objects can you use to create static routes? ISDB objects, Internet Service Database objects. Question 2. When the stop policy routing action is used in a policy route, which behavior is expected? FortiGate routes the traffic based on the regular routing table. Routing. Part 2. Routing monitor and route attributes. Routing table, static and dynamic, contains best routes, active routes of type connected, static, and dynamic. And routing table does not contain inactive, standby, and policy routes. Policy route table policy view displays all configured policy routes, regular policy routes, ISDB routes, Internet Service Database routes, and SD-WAN routes, Software Defined Wide Area Network routes. Graphical User Interface Route Lookup Tool. Lookup route by destination address is required. Destination port, source address, protocol, and source interface. Source interface is optional. If all criteria are provided, FortiGate checks both routing policy, route table entries. Otherwise, FortiGate checks routing table entries only. Matching route is highlighted. Route attributes. Each route in the routing table has the following attributes. First, network. Second, gateway IP. Interfaces, distance, metric, priority. There is a CLI command, get router info routing table all. It displays routing table entries on the CLI. Distance. First tiebreaker for duplicate routes is the best route selection. The lower the distance, the higher the preference. Lower distance, higher preference. Set by the admin except connected routes. Administrative distance. Route with lower distance is installed in RIB, Routing Information Base. Standby routes, higher distance, are not installed in RIB. They are installed in the routing table database. Multiple equal distance duplicate routes, but different protocol. FortiGate keeps the route that was learned last. Avoid it. Default distance per route. Administrative distance. For connected networks, 0. For static SD-WAN is 1. Static DHCP is 5. Static, which is set manual, is 10. Static IKE 15. eBGP is external BGP 20. OSPF, Open Shortest Path First, 110. ISIS, hard-coded, 115. RIP, 120. IBGP, internal BGP, administrative distance is 200. Metric. Tiebreaker for the same protocol duplicate dynamic routes. The lower the metric, the higher the preference. Best route is installed in the routing table, and other duplicate routes are installed in routing table database. The calculation method differs among routing protocols.